Folks, welcome into a brand new episode of Trainwreck Fantasy Baseball. Wake back here after a bit of a hiatus, still coming down from the draft week. I'm still exhausted from being on the screen for 10 hours out of 2 days. Like that was some crazy stuff. Like I'm happy that we're not doing any fantasy potathons or anything because I would lose every sense of reality that I have. But this is a normal show. Finally back to it. Steve, last week you guys killed it with Tybee. So I honestly thought I might lose my post here, but I think I feel safe knowing that you wanted me back. So thank you for bringing me back to this show. As I know you've been hitting the lottery on a lot of your free agent picks. You got to be feeling hot coming in for this episode of Trainwreck Fantasy Baseball. Yeah,
it's been good. It feels like, I tell someone to pick them up and then they have a career week the next week. And I've been loving that.
Yeah.
It's been a great feeling so far. And I'm just hoping to continue that. We still got 5 months to go. It's a long season for fantasy baseball.
Yeah, you can be 4-0 right now and you can still finish in last place. I am in last place in my league right now, and I have Mike Trout. That tells you everything about how my season's gone so far. Nick, you're riding higher than I am, though. Maybe as high as Steve with how the Yankees have been doing. It's been nice to not – I actually muted the term Yankees on Twitter because I was sick of hearing about the Yankees being good again. But, you know, it's something to talk about, so I'll let you talk about it.
Yeah, honestly, what the Yankees are doing right now, obviously we had a loss today with, a day game. We lost to the Astros. It was a rough loss, but, we got brought back down to earth a little bit. The Astros are still a pretty, they're an okay team. They're not bad. Their record isn't probably as good as what that team is, and that's the way I felt about the Yankees for weeks. But when it comes down to the last, 12, 13 games, what I've seen from the Yankees has been basically what I was expecting. Solid defense, contact hitting, timely hits, and great pitching.
Yes.
Today, Chad Green got blown up a little bit. It's okay. It's going to happen. Garrett Cole gave another decent start. But the big exclamation point that the Yankees have been putting in their games is Giancarlo Stanton.
Yeah.
He's been tearing the leather off the ball. I mean, this is as good as I've ever seen Stanton hit. And we're talking about a guy in 2017 that hit 59 home runs. This stretch of hitting that we're seeing from Stanton, and he's even said it himself, it's the best stretch of hitting he's ever had. If he can keep up anywhere near this pace, I mean, it would be ridiculous. You're going to see it come back down to earth. But if he could bat 300 this year, that's unlike him. And he's going to obviously put up the power numbers. He'll put that up whether he bats 300 or 220. He's going to put the power numbers up. If he could add a 300 batting average with that, and then they go on and win the division and come back, he's got to be in the MVP discussion. I know how good Trout is. I know how good Ohtani is, but you have to have him in that conversation. I'm loving what I'm seeing right now. They do have the best record over the last 14 games in the majors. They actually have a better record than the Dodgers right now. So I was hitting that panic button. I was freaking out. I no longer feel that way. And Judge really hasn't done anything the last couple games. Yeah. So carrying him as well. I just love what I've seen. I love what I'm seeing right now. This team is going to start getting well-rounded, and you're going to see them continue to stay hot through the summer.
And what is Judge right now? What's going on with him? Like, is he hurt? Is he just in a funk? Like it's a long season, so every player goes through some kind of funk at some point. So
it's weird. It's kind of a tale of two Judges over the last 12 to 13 games where the Yankees have been on this hot streak, because the first half of that he was red hot. He was hitting the crap out of the ball.
Yeah.
Last couple games, I mean, he had 5 strikeouts yesterday. Anytime you have 5 strikeouts in a game, I mean, that's eyebrow raising. That's his second time he's done that in his career, which is to be expected. I mean, he does swing and miss a lot. But again, today, a couple more strikeouts, just not seeing the ball well, it seems like. But, Booney comes out and says, I don't care about the 5 strikeouts. I like the swings I was seeing. I didn't see those swings that Booney's saying. I think he's trying to, I'll be honest, I think he's just trying to, gas his guy's head up and try to get him out of this funk.
Yeah, not lambaste him in front of the media, really.
Yeah, I'm seeing a very off-balance Judge right now, which is uncommon, but he'll figure it out.
Yeah.
You got to be excited for what you see in Kluber lately, too. It looks like Corey Kluber is finally – he's been drinking from the fountain of youth. It looks like him himself again.
And I think all of us kind of brought him up as a buy low early on. Maybe in the first episode, I think we all said that don't expect that to continue. So props to all of us. props to John Means. I mean, that's, the episode of the day is called What Do You Means? Because what do you means? Like, John Means is off to, he's the single greatest fantasy pitcher right now, at least on ESPN. He is. On Yahoo's, he ranked 4th, so it's just how their algorithms go, whatever. But the thing about John Means, is this sustainable? He's not on a great team. Steve, do you think what John Means is doing is sustainable?
So I love John Means, and he's kind of in a day right now where the best pitchers are all the guys who throw like 98, 99. They have a nasty breaking ball. They just blow you away with stuff. John Means relies on his changeup and his curveball, and his fastball is only about 92, 93 miles an hour, but he's so good at locating his pitches. And that's what I love about John Means. He's thrown his curveball 84 times this year. You know what the batting average is against it? 0. There hasn't been a single hit against his curveball this year. His changeup, he's thrown that 200 times. The average against that is 102. John Means is a guy right now who's thrown, the soft off-speed stuff and just locating it so well, and he's just keeping hitters off balance all game long. Yes, he's not on a great team. I get it. The Orioles, they're not a great team. And I have a friend who's a diehard Orioles fan, and he told me, he's like, it's probably going to be the same thing. The Orioles going to be a little bit below 500 at the break and then just trade off pieces and just lose, 90-plus games for the year. And that's just kind of what the Orioles story is.
Yeah.
But you know what? John Means he's 4-0 right now. Even if he doesn't get the wins, he's a guy who he can go long into starts with the way he throws. He doesn't have to throw, 130 pitches a start. This guy, he's very consistent. He keeps guys off base. His whip right now is .67, which is, I believe, second in the MLB behind Jacob deGrom. You might have heard of him. John Means, I've been really impressed with him, especially his no-hitter yesterday, because technically it could have been a perfect game. It was a passed ball, strikeout, and then they ended up caught stealing at second, which I wish it was a perfect game, because John Means is the guy you want to root for to have something like that.
Yeah.
But like I said, John Means, he's just locating the ball so well. And if you can locate, even though you're only throwing 92, 93, his off speed's really carrying him. I know his numbers won't stay this good, but John Means is someone I really like, not just this year, but in dynasty formats going forward. And whether he stays an Oriole or not, he's a guy who's just going to be consistent all year long.
And now what I'm about to say is you touched on it a little, and then it started to go away from that a little bit. And, this is not for anyone in a dynasty league. This is redraft only. But I'm absolutely selling him if he's on my team. Like 110%. Coming off a no-hitter, there's no way he's not going to keep what he's doing up.
Right.
And I got a few things to say about that here. So I looked at, there's this one really great website called StatCast. They do a really good job of comparing pitchers based on their repertoire and what they use well, including location and all that, which is what John Means is doing really, really well. Pitchers who, the 3 closest to Means are Tariq Skubal, who is 797th in fantasy. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that these numbers are the end-all be-all, but having all 3 of them in that same area, Blake Snell in Tampa Bay, 468th, not having a great year. Good year, not having a great year. And then Austin Gomer from Colorado, 694. Another pitcher who is just no one that you even want to have on your roster whatsoever. And between his called strike and whiff, it's 29.7%. I would like that to be a little higher for the low ERA and the low whip that he has. But he's also the number 1 pitcher in fantasy baseball right now. So if you want to hold on to him, I'm not going to say that you shouldn't, but this is a time, and this is my sell high for the day, so I'm getting off the hook early for it. I do think this is probably the best sell high in baseball right now is John Means, because of the no-no.
That's the thing. It's like, this is the highest value you'll probably get for him all year long, right? The guy just throws a no-hitter that was basically a perfect game the day before.
You can't say a bad thing about the guy. You really can't.
Right.
He's a good MLB pitcher, but asset management.
And that's the thing. If someone offers you, you can't refuse offer for John Means, then absolutely, I'm taking it. Because John Means, most of the time, he was either a free agent pickup or he was someone you drafted round 15 or higher. So, but you have to look at this, I guess, both ways. John Means, if no one's really offering anything that you think is fair value for him, just hold on to him, because he is going to be a consistent starter. And like I said, he locates his off-speed pitches so well that I really do think it's sustainable. But to your point, Wake, if you can get like a top 2-3 round guy for John Means just based on what he's done so far in the first month, then absolutely take that deal without question.
Oh yeah, Nick, anything to say on that?
I think too with John Means, I know we talked about his swing and miss rate, and I love that stat, I really do. But I think with him, I would take the back seat on that, because I bet you if you look at someone like Greg Maddox's swing and miss rate, it's going to be a little bit lower than Randy Johnson. So the reason I talk about that is because someone that has a 92-mile-an-hour fastball and is throwing a lot of junk, he's not getting as many strikeouts as DeGrom, Garrett Cole, but he's going to get a lot of ground balls, a lot of balls that aren't hit up squarely. So, I do love that stat, but for a guy like John Means, I mean, I kind of overlooked that stat a little bit. But I'm with you, Wake. I mean, after a no-hitter, what better time to sell than now,
Right.
But to Stevie's point, if you're not getting exactly what you want for him, hang on to him, because he's going to give you a good rest of your season. He's just not going to give you a no-hitter every game.
Exactly.
What I will say, too, about Means is even though he throws really soft stuff, he does have 50 Ks in 46 innings, a 30% K rate where the MLB average is 23%, and a 33% hard hit rate where the MLB average is 39%. So like you said, Nick, he does give up soft contact, but he actually does get swing and misses with these slow off-speed pitches, and I think part of that is just due to where he's locating them.
Yeah, it's special what you're seeing with that location. It really is.
Yeah, and the location is something that's a little harder to sustain, but when you're on it, you are on it. We said the same thing about Corbin Burns when with all his paint pitches from 2 weeks ago. We were talking about that a little. There's Means is probably the most intriguing player in fantasy baseball, just because there's so many ranges of outcomes for him for the rest of the year. Another team that has a lot of ranges of outcomes that might be getting some better fortune in the future are the Buffalo Blue Jays.
Yes.
I think that the takeaway from them actually officially coming back to Buffalo is that you should be buying as many Blue Jays players as you can. And our guy Ty B did a great job outlining how important this is for them in his article. Anybody watching, if you're on YouTube or Facebook right now, I linked the article in the description. So definitely click on that. You can pause us. You can leave us forever. I don't care. Just definitely, you want to check out that article. He did a great job. I am going to tease it a little bit here, though. So last season, the Jays were really bad before they came into Buffalo. And Ty B pointed out that they went on to finish 17-9 at Sahlen Field, 15-19 every other ballpark. And it's not because it's a minor league ballpark. It's actually one of the better AAA ballparks out there. They're just a much better hitting team there than any other team that even came into Sahlen Field. The Blue Jays had 43 home runs. The rest of the league had 24 in Sahlen Field. So it's not like it's a hitter's park or anything. The Blue Jays just struck magic there. So, I mean, one, it's awesome for Buffalo, but two, for fantasy owners who want to be, want Blue Jays on their team, it's great for them too.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, too, we also had Springer and Teoscar come back this past week. The Blue Jays are one of those rare lineups that 1 through 9, anyone can hit a home run in that lineup. They have power hitters throughout the lineup. We've seen what Vlad's done this year. You got Bichette, you got Biggio, guys that could just hit home runs, 20, 30 home run potential all through this lineup. And the move back to Buffalo is only going to help that. What I will say, too, though, is Blue Jays pitchers, I may be tempted to sell them off. Not completely sold on it, but there's a lot of guys, Robbie Ray, Steven Matz, probably two of the big ones. They give up hard hits. They give up a lot of home runs over the course of their careers. They've been pitching decent so far this season, but with the move back to Buffalo, I think it is a more hitter-friendly park. Maybe not Coors Field or Great American, but probably, right up there, top 5 ballpark for hitters going forward. The Blue Jays bats are going to be super valuable, and I would try to get rid of the pitchers if you could.
Nick, anything else to add on the Blue Jays?
No, I'm with Stevie there. I mean, as soon as June 1st hits, that's a really good point. Pitchers, and I'm going to talk about a waiver pickup a little bit later. We'll get to that. But that's a guy that I might even have the conversation that Stevie's having. Hey, June 1st, you might want to sell him. So great point to that, Stevie. I think, to your point as well, 1 through 9 in that lineup is absolutely feared. And I mean, Springer first game back hits 2 homers. I mean, come on. So it's one of those things where they could beat you 20-0 in a game. With the way they've been pitching, and obviously they can hit. Not saying that that's going to happen, but that's the type of lineup that they have. And obviously, if they keep pitching the way that they do, we'll see. But come June 1st, I'm selling pitchers. I'm with you.
Yeah,
and go ahead, Stevie.
I was just going to say the Blue Jays lineup is one of those where I think it's going to be top 5 in baseball regardless, and this move back just only going to help that. I believe they have 10 runs today in Oakland. This team can hit, but they also love to hit at home. I believe they're second in baseball right now in home runs per game at home, and they're not even in Buffalo back. Once they get to Buffalo, I don't see anyone hitting better at home than the Blue Jays will.
No, honestly, probably not. And as Tybee pointed out, I think in his article too, they have the 8th ranked pitching staff right now in terms of ERA. I know it was top 10. I can't remember the exact number, but there could be a lot of good fortune coming for the Blue Jays coming when they get back to Buffalo. We'll be in Seneca One Tower watching every single game. Oh yeah, but this is a great segue. We talked about buying low on the Blue Jays now, selling high on John Means, as I said earlier. So we will get into that. We'll start with buy low, get into sell high. Nick, why don't you kick us off? Who is your buy low in week 5 of the MLB season?
So my buy low is Freddie Freeman. You're probably going to raise your eyebrows and you're going to think, Freddie Freeman, how is he a buy low? But he's obviously not. Yeah, he's not putting up the numbers. He's batting like 220 this year. I mean, he's giving you power. But the big thing for me is it's almost like a take advantage situation. I don't like doing this to people, but if you're in a league for a good amount of money and you have someone in there that's a little bit of a newbie when it comes to fantasy sports, that's the kind of guy that's going to say, what is Freddie Freeman doing? Let me get rid of him while he might still have some value. A veteran owner is probably not going to sell you Freddie Freeman for a small penny. They're probably going to say we want something big for him because they know exactly what they have in Freddie Freeman. So when you talk about a non-season owner, they're going to look to hit the panic button. You might be able to potentially swoop under the radar and really get a lopsided low ball offer for a fantasy beast. I know obviously he hasn't given it right now, but he is a fantasy beast in the past, and he will straighten his numbers out. So buy low. If you can get him for a bag of balls, go for it. Down the road of the season, he's going to turn back into Freddie Freeman, and you're going to get exactly what you want from him. And if you can get him for cheap, I mean, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I brought up Freddie Freeman as my buy low 2 weeks ago, and so if you listen to me, I'm sorry, probably did it too soon. You should listen to Nick now, though. You definitely should. Steve, over to you. Who's your buy low for week 5?
So just like Nick, I'm going with another slugger first baseman, and this is Jose Abreu of the Chicago White Sox. I love buying low on Jose Abreu because I think a lot of people are just buying into he's getting old. He's 34. He's really not doing anything. He's batting .206 this year with 6 home runs, 22 RBIs, a career low. I believe it's a .396 slugging. But, if you look into it, Jose Abreu, his BABIP this year is .235. His career BABIP's .326. So he's getting really, really unlucky. His hard hit rate this year is 52.7%. That's his second best hard hit rate of his career to his MVP season last year. So he's still hitting the ball super hard. The problem with Jose this year, his ground ball rate up 12% to 58%. His strikeout rate up 8% to, I believe it's 28%. I expect both those numbers to kind of regress more towards the mean. And if you talk about Jose Abreu, I call him the most boring player in baseball because he really is. No one really talks about him. The man bats 290, 300 every year with 30 home runs and 100 RBIs. He's in the Chicago White Sox lineup, which has been phenomenal so far this year. I know they've dealt with a little bit of injuries, but they're still producing. They're still a top 10 offense in baseball. So he's going to get those counting stats, the runs, the RBIs. And like I said, Jose Abreu, I'll believe it when I see it. I don't think this is the end of him. He's just too consistent of a hitter. I think he can get up to like a 280 average, to end the year, 25, 30 home runs. He still hit 6 home runs at the first month. I mean, if you look at that, that's like a 30 home run pace. I'm not giving up on him, and you can get him, I think, at a really good value because his average is so low and because of just the narrative going around that, he's getting older. he's still hitting the ball really hard. He's getting really unlucky with the BABIP. I think Jose Abreu is a guy who could turn it around quick. And if you give him one good month, his value double, almost triples. So I would go get him now while he's low in a good lineup and still hitting the ball really well.
Yeah, I love the Abreu call. I mean, you set it out as perfect as I could have. So, I mean, I don't want to steal your. I can't add anything to that. Like, Nick, like, what else can we say about Jose Abreu?
I just love that you call him the most boring player because I'm with you 100%. And he reminds me, as a hitter, he reminds me of Joey Votto. Who, I mean, Joey Votto had a couple years where he went like 330, but Joey Votto's a really boring baseball player. And it just I used to always say it, and people are like, how are you going to call him boring? I'm like, because he goes out and he hits 300 and he hits you 25 to 30 dingers and he stays under the radar. That's exactly what Jose Abreu is. That's a really, really good call.
Yeah.
He is.
I mean, that's the thing. It's like, I'm not saying boring. I'm not trying to say that in a negative term. It's just boring because every year you just know what this guy's going to do. He's going to bat right around 300, hit 30 home runs and like 100 RBIs. He walks a decent amount. He's a very solid baseball player, but he never has those type of, crazy seasons where people are like, oh, Jose Abreu, he's a top 5 player in baseball. Jose Abreu's just been great since he's entered the league, but no one really cares because he's just consistently very good every year. And in Jose Abreu fashion, of course he wins the MVP in the shortened season that no one really cares about. I mean,
if there was ever a way to tell the story of Jose Abreu, that shortened season is absolutely it. It really is. My buy low, I'll go in the middle here, and then we'll go to the sell highs because I already did mine. Cheating, I love it. Is Austin Meadows. Is he at maybe the disappointment of 2020? Is that fair with how awful he played? But the good news is his underlying numbers have completely rebounded almost back to the 2019 form. In some areas, they're higher. Some areas are lower. I'm going to call that a win. First of all, even through the slump last year, his hard hit rate still stayed at 42.9%. It's been exactly that every year for the past 3 years, which is really ridiculous, to be honest. It's not like it's a great number, but that level of consistency is something that you're striving for when you're buying low or for whereas and whatnot. His walk rate is the highest it's ever been at 14.1. Strikeout rate back down to 24.5, and that's still not a good number. But last year he was striking out a third of the time he stepped up to the plate. That's huge. His whiff rate below 30 again. Chase percentage is the lowest it's been in his entire career. I just feel like he's one of those guys that, his track record speaks for itself. His 2019 season where he had 33 home runs, give or take, was spectacular. He's already got 7 home runs this season far, and that's hitting 208. Imagine if he actually hit his expected batting average of 253. His 30 home runs would kind of be his floor at that point. So if you're a team that has solid contact hitters and you can deal with a hit to your ERA, he's definitely someone you want to buy low on. Even if you can't swallow, that losing an extra percentage point or so in ERA, in average. I think he's very, very much worth it just because his ceiling is, we know how high it is. It's 2019, maybe higher.
Well, and that's the thing. I love that pick for Austin Meadows because he really is one of those guys who has the potential to just have an absolute breakout summer and really become a type of league winner with his power speed combination. He really has that type of potential to, win your league if he can just go, nuclear over the summer months. And like you said, the underlying numbers are really supporting that he's having the season more similar to what his kind of first breakout season was, to opposed to last year where he was ice cold. So I think that's a phenomenal pick.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I love former Pirates that do well elsewhere. That's my
me too.
Nick, over to you for your sell high.
Sell high, I'm going to go with Justin Turner. So Justin Turner, he's batting 333. He's got 7 homers, 22 RBIs. Pretty crazy number. He's got a 373 batting average on balls in play. So what that tells me is, especially with someone like Justin Turner, who really doesn't have that much speed. Actually, he's got no speed. Let's call it. It's showing me that he's running into a lot of luck right now. So at the end of the day, his numbers will come back down to earth. So I'll say, honestly, if you drafted Justin Turner, kudos to you. Great job. He's a guy, he's 36 years old. He's only projected to play half of his games this year. Obviously, he's played just about every game this year, but he's only projected to play, I think, 92 games. And he was projected to hit like 260, 270. Not normal Justin Turner numbers. And obviously, the playing time is not there. So you're going to look at a guy that's in a lineup like the Dodgers. The Dodgers have an unreal lineup. He starts slipping up a little, which is expected because he's just, he's red hot right now. You're expecting him to drop down, especially with that ball's in play. Some of those are going to, they're going to be outs. You're going to see him start dropping down in the lineup. You're going to start seeing his playing time get limited as a 36-year-old. So if you have him, if you made that draft pick, if you made that pickup, great freaking job. But the time is now to sell him because it's not going to get any higher stock-wise.
Yeah, I think.
Go ahead.
I think you brought up a good point with his durability too. Justin Turner, he's a great pure hitter. He's never going to get you steals. He's not going to help you there, but he's a great pure hitter. Average, maybe a little bit of power, but durability is a big concern, and especially on a team like the Dodgers, like you said, Nick. If once they start getting healthier, once their young guys start hitting the ball a little better. I know Gavin Lux has struggled a little bit. McKinstry's on the IL. If Turner goes cold for a little bit, the Dodgers have enough guys to just plug in and have him sit, 3-4 games a week. So that's a really, really good point.
They're so deep. They are so deep, that team.
Yeah, despite the kind of cold streak they're on right now, I mean, when everybody gets healthy again, that team is still a scary team for the playoffs next year, even for this year. Moving into the free agent targets for the week, I'll take the first one here, and I got a little bit of a graphic here, and it's Andrew Kittredge for the record here, and I picked him up last week out of desperation for I had two of the Reds pitchers in that game that was 12-12 in the 7th inning, and so my ERA, even though I also had the Max Scherzer complete game, was a 12. So I really needed help with my ERA. I really, really did. And this guy was someone who, so far, has done a good job for it. If you need strikes, don't pick him up. I'm just going to be completely forward with you. He's not the guy you want to add if you do need strikeouts. But he is kind of the definition of consistency as a pitcher right now. In 10 games and 13 innings pitched right now, he's got 3 wins, a save, and a hold. Just because he kind of has started to do that thing that like the Reds like to do kind of. I love that I keep talking about the Reds now, even though he's not even on the damn team. But, they love to – they're now putting him as the starter, letting him do like 2 innings. If he doesn't let up any runs, he could get the win, and that's what's happened. And if you look at the projections here that I've gotten here, courtesy of Fantasy Pros, they do a really good job of outlining some fantasy content sometimes. He has really surpassed projections every single game of the year, except for you see that 418 one, that giant jump in the projection. That was his first start of the year. Every other game he was pegged in as a reliever. So if you take that out, he's beaten projections every game this year. And to start out the season, he was like 1,000. He was over 1,100 in ADP, but ECR, which is expert consensus ranking, had him as a late round value. So this is a guy that the experts were high on. The public was really not. And I always love those guys. And so far it's worked out. If you can get an occasional save or a win or a hold from the guy, or 2 of them in the process, that's kind of just found money with this guy.
Yeah, no, I like that. It's someone, it's a name not a lot of people recognize, right? So it's someone that people aren't going to be jumping to the waiver wire for. But yeah, that's definitely a smart pickup. Can help you.
And I realized we forgot to do your sell high, so let's go back to that, Stevie. I typed it into the on over here too, and I'm ready to put it on the screen. So let's not waste any more time. Who's your sell high for the week?
All right, so I'm going with someone who's been pretty good this year, and a guy I like maybe a couple of years down the road, and that's Christian Javier of the Houston Astros. The big thing with him is the innings for me, right? He's pitched 5 games so far this year. He's 3-0. He's got 30 Ks in 25 innings, which is pretty good. A 1.75 ERA, a .89 WHIP. Great numbers, and last year, in his shortened season as a rookie, he had good numbers too. But it's always comes down to these young starting pitchers, how the ball clubs are going to manage them. And as we already saw this year with the Houston Astros, they skipped 2 of Javier's starts. And one of them, they sent him down to the alternate site because they were able to run a 4-man rotation for like a week and a half. They had, enough space in between the games. And that's a telling sign to me that, Javier's a great pitcher, great prospect, but he's someone that the Astros are probably going to take a little lightly. In his 5 games this year, he's only thrown more than 5 innings once. So he's not getting you quality starts. And really, it's hard to get wins if you're only going 5 innings. It can get very, very tough that way. And he's only thrown 113 innings was the most he's pitched in a single season. So I highly doubt that the Astros are going to have him throw more than maybe 120, 140 this year. So this is more of kind of looking down the road. His stats look great right now. He's a top 25 starting pitcher. You could get good value for him. You really could. And you could also play hey, he's a young pitcher, great potential. He's got great swing and miss stuff card as well. You sell off Christian Javier for a guy who can maybe help you for the whole year, because it just feels like to me that Javier is a guy who may be moved to the bullpen come at like later on into the summer, or he may be a guy where they start to skip his starts more often because they want to limit the innings. And I always kind of look out for that with these young starting pitchers. And at 24 years old, he hasn't thrown more than like 60 innings in the major leagues. Pump the brakes on Javier. He's got good stuff. He's a great pitcher. I'm not disputing that. I'm just saying that he's someone that innings are probably going to become a concern.
Yeah, innings will become a concern, and also he has one of the higher exit velocity, average exit velocity, max in the MLB. He's like the top 30 or so, and his hard hit rate isn't anything to be super proud of either. So, so I do like the Christian Javier call. He is 2 years into his MLB career, so that's not we're not shit talking him by any means. Like as Stevie said, it's just you sell high. He's 3-0 with a sub-2 ERA right now. Like that's that.
and what you said about John Means, Wake, you want to sell these pitchers at the highest point you can. Christian Javier, his value's probably only going to go down if, like I said, they start skipping starts, or if, maybe he gives up a bunch of runs one start and then his numbers become inflated. Right now, he's got great looking numbers, and he it looks like an ace. But if you can get that value, I would absolutely sell him.
100%. So we skipped you for the free agent. So just remind, and I will edit this together because that's what we do for you too. We'll edit and fix my mistakes. That's what interns do. Nick, you still have to do your free agent target, right?
Yeah, I got my free agent target. So free agent Tyler Rogers is a guy that I would go for. So Tyler Rogers is a guy that a lot of people don't even really know his name, but he is a reliever with the San Francisco Giants. Jake McGee is their closer. I mean, that's who's going to be their closer moving forward. But he's got serious struggles this year so far. So what's been happening is they're really trusting Tyler Rogers with that submarine delivery. He's been put in some pretty high leverage spots. He's pitched 17 2/3 innings. He's got 10 strikeouts. He's got a 1.02 ERA and a 0.85 WHIP. He's got 2 saves. Like I said, I mean, they're trusting him to go into these high leverage spots. So what I'm saying is, with Jake McGee, he's not gonna disappear. He's gonna end up being the closer. But while he's going through these struggles, they're gonna allow Tyler Rogers to be a guy that goes in there and shares time until McGee rights that ship. So, the next couple of weeks, this is a good waiver pickup right now. In the next couple of weeks, he might be someone you sell for something as Jake McGee starts figuring it out. But for the next couple of weeks, you're gonna see Tyler Rogers pick up a couple of saves and be pitching in some high leverage spots. The innings will be there for him. So snag him if he's available in your league.
Yeah, the innings are going to be there, and the hard hit percentage for him is also extremely, extremely, extremely good for just all the underlying numbers for Tyler Rogers. Not to be confused with Taylor Rogers, who is on Taylor Rogers' Neighborhood. That is my fantasy team name. But another good reliever from the Rogers family. I don't know if they're related at all, but they kind of look like they might be, to be completely honest. So I don't know.
Somewhere down the bloodline, maybe.
Steve, thoughts on Tyler Rogers?
Yeah, and I think what Nick said too, if Jake McGee continues to struggle, you might get yourself some free saves. We've seen this before. I mean, how many times does it happen in the fantasy baseball season where midway through there's just a switch in the closer because one guy continues to produce? Well, maybe the older veteran he starts getting hit all the time. And it's really a short leash with closers now. It really only takes 2-3, bad appearances and the manager's like, all right, we're done. We're going to try this guy out and see how he does. And that's really helps you win your league. If you can get those guys that they might be setup guys for, a few weeks, maybe even a month or so. But once they get the opportunity, they can run away with it. They could become maybe a top 10 relief pitcher by the end of the year.
Yeah. And that's a league winner if you get him on the free agent wire. That's the definition of a league winner. Steve, you got the floor. So give us one of your free agent targets.
So my first one is Tyler O'Neill of my St. Louis Cardinals, and you'll notice kind of a theme here with my free agent targets over the past couple of weeks. I like getting batters to where there's a lot of potential there, and that's the definition of what you'll see with Tyler O'Neill. He was, one of the top prospects for the Cardinals for a few years. He struggled badly last year, and this year he started off, wasn't doing too hot. But he's been on a tear lately. His last 10 games, he's batting around 350. He's got 4 home runs. And one thing that I didn't really think we'd see, O'Neill's stealing. He's got 3 steals already this year. I think they've all come in the past 8 games. But Tyler O'Neill has 30 home run potential. And a month into the season, getting a guy at his age with his upside on the free agent wire is very rare. So you might as well just go after and grab him. He was less than 50% owned earlier this week. I believe he's like 40% now. Tyler O'Neill, he's batting behind Goldschmidt and Arenado, so he's going to have, chances a lot of the times with runners on base. The Cardinals' offense as a whole has been pretty decent this year. Tommy Edman's been playing well. Dylan Carlson's been playing well. So there's been a lot of guys who will be on base for O'Neill. And he's just got raw power potential, which I love. And that's something I want to attack in free agency. I talked about Jesus Aguilar last week, who's a guy who, 30 home run potential. Tyler O'Neill is just like that. He's hit for 30 home runs twice already in the minors. And although he hasn't had the best, start to his major league career, he's still super young. And this guy is someone who really could be a summer breakout guy. He's got the raw talent. He's got the skills. And he's running now, too. I didn't expect that, but he's got 3 steals already. It's not crazy to say he can get 10, 15 steals on the year and, combine that with like a 260, 270 average, 20, 25 home runs. That's a guy you're starting every day in your lineup.
Yep. And it says here he's the 98th percentile at his top speed. Like that is just extra bases and stolen bases waiting to happen. I love that call.
I think too, when you talk about Goldschmidt and Arenado in front of him, you got to pitch to someone. And it's if you're gonna pitch to someone, it's not going to be those two. So it's going to be Tyler O'Neill. He's going to see fastballs. So that's a really great pickup. And
he's going to see fastballs with runners on base too. And those are huge for the counting stats. Those are huge for the RBIs. And another thing on O'Neill, 50% hard hit rate. MLB average is 39%. I just talked about Jose Abreu, who's got like a 52% hard hit rate. Tyler O'Neill's hitting the ball just about as hard as him. I love the pickup.
Yeah, it's the best hard hit rate of his career, actually. I'm looking at that now. So honestly, even if you get him, if you're in a keeper league, he could be someone that you pick up on free agency and you want to keep next year. That's a really good call.
And he's playing every day.
Yeah, right. And he's playing every day. And he's young. Like that is, whether it's keeper dynasty, like Tyler O'Neill, even redraft, he's someone I definitely think people should have their eyes on. My last free agent target is going to be someone I brought up before, but I brought him up as kind of a one-and-done option at pitcher. Now I'm kind of make the case to keep him around, and that's Aaron Sanchez. I think it was 2 weeks ago when it was just you and me, Steve, on the show when I brought him up. He was going against the Marlins that day, and that day it worked. It actually really, really worked. And where the hell did my nose go? Okay, I found him. That day he got the Marlins to win, no earned runs over 5 innings, only got 2 strikeouts. So again, I guess if you're a pitcher, a strikeout-needy team, you should never listen to me, to be completely honest. But even since that Miami game, he had a game against Colorado where he did pretty well, almost made it to 5 innings, only gave up 2 runs, 6 strikeouts that time, so a better outing. The game after that, however, not as great. It bumped his ERA up from a 2.22 to a 3.18. Still, after giving up 4 runs in 4 innings, he still has an ERA of 3.18. So, I mean, this is kind of just you can do a lot worse than having Aaron Sanchez be your depth pitcher, right? And I think that and I did say when I said to pick him up a while ago, he was going against the Marlins, who you should stream every pitcher you can get against the Marlins. But I watched games that he played against Colorado recently, especially the one where he did kind of get shelled over 4 innings. He didn't really pitch as bad as it kind of said he did. Like there were some blunders fielding. There were I don't know. I think there's an error or 2 in that game. I do like Aaron Sanchez as a very low risk. Keep him on your bench. He's also pitching, just in terms of strikeout rate and walk rate, the best he's done over his entire career, hands down. So I do like that, and I feel like it's only up from here for him.
Yeah, and he pitches in a pitcher-friendly park too. That's exactly another big thing I look for. So that kind of will help his cause going forward. And with Aaron Sanchez too, he's also a guy you don't really have to worry about too much if someone's going to grab. If you want to pick him up for a start, maybe stream him for a start, then maybe drop him for a couple days, get someone else, and then pick him up for his next start. He's someone you can afford to have the luxury to do that with.
Mm-hmm. Next week, I think he faces a 2-start week, and the first one would be against the Rangers. So that's why I really like taking him ahead of next week. Nick, your final free agent ad for week 5.
Yeah, so my final ad, and we've talked about him on this show earlier in the season, is Nate Pearson. So Nate Pearson, first start with the Bisons on Tuesday. I mean, he looked as advertised. 3 2/3, 8 strikeouts, 1 earned, hitting 98 on the nose often. I think Ty B said he hit 101 at some point during the game. It's he's got a great live arm. Spin rate's unbelievable. Obviously, his fastball, the ball explodes out of this kid's hand. When you watch him pitch, I mean, it doesn't look like it's anything serious. It's not like he's Nolan Ryan out there pumping, but the ball just explodes out of his hand. And then he's got a wipeout slider to go along with it. So I mean, Nate Pearson, the hype is real, and obviously a lot of real baseball fans know who Nate Pearson is. He's owned in about 52% of the league, so he's owned. He's out there, but there's about half the leagues he's not owned. If you can get this guy, jump on him and jump on him fast, because when he hits the league, he's going to hit it with a lot of great stats that are going to get you through the stretch in the summer with the fantasy league. So he's about to get called up. It's going to be something special to see.
Yeah, 100%. And we do have Nate Pearson's preseason press conference over on the Trainwreck Sports YouTube. So go over there and check that out. I do want to play a clip from that, kind of similar to, he's talking about what Josh Allen had to work on. If we're going to use a football analogy, he had a lot of mechanical issues to work through this offseason. And one reporter asked him about that. So I did want to play that for everyone.
Next, a little bit throwing with a little bit less effort and feeling more whippy and just more effortlessly, not trying to chase velo or anything, just trying to pitch. And so it's definitely a little bit new. So I'm adjusting to those mechanics, but I'm feeling really great with them, and feeling healthy. Yeah. So like before, I felt like I was nice and smooth, and like the last minute, I'd tense up and try to throw the ball as hard as I can. That's when my command gets sporadic, and I feel like right now I'm focused on staying one speed the whole time and just keeping the body quiet through the whole delivery.
And clearly all that work is paying off for him. Nick, I saw you open your mouth there, so go for it.
It's unbelievable that the ball is coming out at 101 miles an hour from someone who's taking it easy. So that shows you the kind of stuff this kid has. And I love that he worked on that, because there's a lot of pitchers out there that, they have a nice fluid motion, and then they get to here and it just goes nuts. And he's not doing that. He's just letting his body go with the ball. And I mean, if you're throwing 98 and it's coming out easy, that's all you need to know. It really is.
Yeah. Dude has one of the best arms as a pitcher in baseball. Stevie, go ahead.
Yeah, and what I will say about Pearson, too, is even if he gives up a few runs in his first couple starts, he's still going to get the strikeouts every start. That will be consistent with Pearson. He's going to get guys to strike out. And what we said earlier about the Blue Jays, he's got a great lineup behind him.
Yep.
So, you can expect wins and maybe a little longer leash on the manager too. If the offense is producing, even though Pearson's younger, they may keep him in longer, see what the kid really has.
Yeah, and they'll let him. Yeah, exactly. They'll let him in, let him stay in, keep that leash long, and basically say, "Hey, we trust you to keep our lineup afloat during even if you let up 2-3 runs in an inning, our batters can bail you out. So just go out and do your thing." I just can't wait to watch him in person from Seneca Tower. That's going to be so great. Oh my God. Stevie, wrap up the show. Who is your final free agent target for Week 5?
All right, so this is probably the pinch your nose most boring one of all time, but I'm going with J.A. Happ of the Minnesota Twins, the 38-year-old journeyman. I've been down this road with J.A. Happ. He lives on the waiver wire. I think he's lived there for the past 10 years, but he's a consistent, solid pitcher. That's the thing with J.A. Happ is he's not really going to get you in too much trouble. You don't have to worry about him. He's not going to strike out a lot of batters. He's got 16 Ks in 28 innings, but he hasn't given up more than 4 hits in any of his starts, hasn't given up more than 2 earned runs in any of his starts, and the Twins are a solid lineup that I think will be, pretty much improving as the year goes on. J.A. Happ is someone who, he's boring, but he's someone you can plug in and not really have to worry about. He may have a chance to, get a quality start here and there. He's going to limit hard contact. He keeps the ball on the ground. He doesn't have, big blow-up starts that'll kill your week. But, hey, he's a guy, if he gets a 2-start week, might be 12, 13 innings, 2-3 earned runs and, 7-8 Ks. It's not like ace numbers, but it's absolutely something you want to plug in and just not have to worry about. And, kind of what you said earlier about Aaron Sanchez, J.A. Happ is, in that category of a guy, hey, I'm going to pick him up for his start. I kind of like the matchup here. Maybe drop him for, next 3-4 days, maybe pick up a bat or a different pitcher and then grab him for his next start. And you really won't have to worry about someone on the waiver wire, fiending for J.A. Happ.
He's the front door of baseball.
That's a really good comparison because he gets the stats, he gets the numbers, but nobody is I'm not, gonna be hyped to watch the next J.A. Happ start. I'm not, that's not a point.
If you go and buy tickets to a Phillies game and you're like, a Twins game and you're like, who's pitching? Oh, it's J.A. Happ. Oh, I mean, okay.
And it's all right. Probably watched this guy 5 times already. He's been to half the major league teams in his career.
Right. He's on the Phillies too, so good call on that, dude.
I think the Yankees, the Blue Jays, he's been everywhere. But he's boring. There's really nothing else to say about it. But he's a guy who will not really kill your team. You don't have to worry about J.A. Happ giving up 10 runs in 2/3 of an inning. This is a guy who's going to pitch, 5-6 innings a start. I think he averages 5 2/3 a start this year. Going to give up, 2 runs, maybe less a start, and he'll strike out 3-4 guys. It's nothing, wow or crazy, but it's consistent numbers that'll help, build your overall pitching totals as the week goes on.
I'll tell you something funny. So what do Sonny Gray, Lance Lynn, and J. Happ all have in common? They all went to the Yankees with these high expectations, and then the next year they had great seasons. So it's a little bit of a trend. I mean, there's a lot of these pitchers who were supposed to be these studs for the Yankees, and maybe the moment or the spotlight gets a little too bright, but then they leave, and the following year they're studs again. So I love that call, Steve.
I can't believe what Lance Lynn's been doing too. He's one guy. We'll probably talk about him later on in a couple weeks down the road. But he's a guy I just can't believe he's been as good as he's been. But to your point, these guys that they're older guys, all 3 that you named. But hey, they give you the stats, and that's really all you want.
It doesn't matter how you get the stats. All that matters is that you do get them. It can be ugly, like putting LaMichael Pirine into your flex spot, like I did in my championship fantasy league last year. But you know what? These things happen. That's going to do it for us here on Trainwreck Fantasy Baseball today. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We will see you next week.